hear a motion to receive and approve the minutes from August 1st? And a second? Okay. Has everybody glanced at those to see if they quoted you properly? If any questions or comments? Okay. May I hear a motion to approve those? Well, we've really got that. Now we're ready to, all approving, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ahmad, you've got the floor.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. We have 7 items today for you which relate to the library system in the city of Oklahoma City. I'd like to also inform you that you will see the memos, the title of the memos are written a little bit differently to clarify, and this was in consultation with our municipal council. Basically, the wording will say recommend to council for approval, and this is the role that your committee is having, and also identifying the project as an unlisted project. So it is identified that it is an unlisted project. So those have been added to the title. So the first item is a allocation request for Northwest Library site improvement. This is, of course, in the corner, southeast corner of MacArthur and Northwest 122nd. And the address is 5600 Northwest 122nd Street. The original project had monies in both 2000 and 2007 GO bond library proposition. And the project was completed and finally accepted by City Council on February 25th, 2014. And the request that we are making today is basically $192,500 from the interest fund of library in order to do some improvements to the site, which is mainly for pedestrian safety. There is a channel that runs around the library, and the sidewalk is very close to it. So we are going to redo some of the sidewalks, put handrails for safety issues. Also in the parking lot of this library, there's some bollards that have been damaged. They need to be replaced. And there are some other safety items on the library site that needs to be fixed with this money. So that's what the request is. Any questions I can accommodate? Yes, all of the memos that you see in front of them go through a series of routing through our administration, the Public Work Administration. Also, it goes through Municipal Attorney's Office, Finance Department for the funding, and then comes back to you. Yes. Yes, after you recommend for approval, it will go to a routing for City Council approval. Item 3B, this is for Ralph Ellison Library. And this library was constructed with 2000 GO bond library proposition. It was finally accepted in October 25th, 2011. The address is at 2000 Northeast 23rd Street in Ward number 7. And basically, we are creating an unlisted project and like to allocate $117,000 toward fixing the aging HVAC system that, you know, through because of wear and tear over the years needs some fixing. And this portion was not renovated with the 2000 GO bond, so it is in the need of repair and fixing. There's also, you know, in your memo, you see that additional $15,000 from the capital improvement funds will be added, so the total will be $132,000.
Any questions or comments? In reading through these, I had a continual item that thoughts that came up. Does anything ever go back, get charged back to whoever had the contract to get the job done? Or if it's too close to when the construction was finished? Or is once the city signs off on it, they're totally free?
Well, usually the projects have a 2-year maintenance bond that anything that is warranted will be fixed if it goes wrong by the contractor. Then after that is accepted by the city as complete and closed. So any repairs after that is the city's responsibility.
Okay. And a second question related to these, was this one, were they getting HVAC systems? They generally all state that they're aging, usually. Aging how far? 2 years and 1 month or 20 years? It'd be nice to have some idea of whether we appear to be getting good work for what we pay originally.
Let me have Mr. Jim Llewellyn, which is our CIP program manager, answer that question, or Mr. Vinier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Public Works Director for Oklahoma City, Eric Winger. So as we look at a number of the building projects that are responsibilities of the city, in the cases of libraries, it's very rare that maybe we completely remodel the entire library at once. The work that was done did partial remodel or expansions, and so you do get a mix of building systems. We can try to provide some additional information on the memos on some of those older systems, but can almost be assured that the work that's on this HVAC is going to be the older systems that were not included as a part of the original remodel that was listed in the memo. So we do work on those, and these do come to us at the request of the Metropolitan Library System. So they do maintain these facilities, but then ask for our assistance just for project management and construction management services.
From your evaluations, with what's been happening with energy use in recent years, when something comes up like this, do you look at increasing the viability of the system to use less energy?
So yes, on all city projects, we do strive to use energy efficient systems, whether it's on heating and cooling or window systems using low E glass. But again, yes, we do try to follow a standard. We actually constructed 2 different libraries now that have used geothermal well systems. And so as we start to also look at alternative forms of heating and cooling, we've even had some experience with geothermal, with one of the more recent ones being the new Southwest Library in South Oklahoma City. So we look at all those factors, but again, we do have to make sure that we design the projects to the budget and complete the project within the funds allowed.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. We're talking about an estimate of $132,000, which is set aside for a repair or possibly replacing the system. Would you say that it's more than likely going to be repair, or do you think a repair is more common? I mean, is replacement more common than repair? Because I'm assuming that the price is going to drastically differ if it's repairing versus replacing.
It's really hard for us to say until the contractor has the full opportunity to review what level needs repair or replacement, but that's something that will follow as this next step. So should we find that the cost of the project is more than anticipated, an item would come back before you for consideration and approval. But at least for today, this is what we believe the estimate to be to move the project forward.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And
The 15,000 in funds is not just for them to review it. It does get replaced, and that's part of the construction piece of it, and 117,000 is the system itself.
Yes, the additional is 15,000 toward the design and construction of HVAC system. So it is a combination of the funds, the bond, the interest funds, and the CIP.
Eric, did you have something?
But this is for any of the engineering costs and for the construction of it. It's for both. It's for the work also, to actually do the work.
Well, I understand the 117,000.
I'm sorry?
I understand the 117,000 would include that, but
And the 15,000 are not bond funds that are also being applied to the project, so the total project is 132, although today from the bond funds that you're considering approval is just 117. So it has multiple funding sources, but to seek the bond funds, we need to come before you today to make the recommendation to council to expend those.
So was there a scope of work that was actually defined to arrive at 117? I think that's really what.
Yeah.
So the answer is yes. We did receive that from Metropolitan Library Systems on the work that they wanted done, and so based on our review, that's where the total cost estimate came up to be the 132.
So there was no really bid or quote that they hustled up. They just put together an estimate of, maybe the consultant put together an estimate of these are what the things that
Right, and that's what we have at this time. So a lot of the project costs that you see that we bring before you are just estimates. They include engineering costs. They, in a lot of cases, will include some contingency cost so that we do some planning that if there's some overages, not every little item would come back before you. But it's just an estimate at this time.
What might be helpful is to have that, because I think this is what everybody's asking, to have that estimate as a part of the package. Maybe it is, I don't know.
No, it didn't.
You know what I'm saying? Whatever that, how did they arrive at?
Let us work on, as we're starting to change the memos, as you see today, and as we start to add some more information, we'll start proposing some additional information, knowing that you're interested in some of the details that we can include in here for our next meeting, and we can go from there. In some cases, I would tell you that the estimates are in-house generated estimates, and in other cases, they may actually be a quote. But I think what we'll do is we'll try to make sure that we standardize that so that we're very responsive to what your needs are, and we'll absolutely work on that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mark, for that. Okay, yep. Yes, we've already had that motion. Oh, did we not? I'm sorry. Motion for approval. Vote. We did get that. So now we need the vote. Those approving? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Okay.
All right, item 3C is another HVAC repair improvements, and this is for Southern Oaks Library. And we are asking, this is an unlisted project, but we are asking allocation of $5,846.32 in the funds from the 2000 bond interest fund, library funds. Now, there are additional $104,153.68 that we like to add to this, and that's the proceeds from sale of an old library in downtown, with a combination of the two being $110,000 to be used toward the Southern Oaks Library HVAC system repairs and improvements. The library was finally accepted in March 19th, 2013. And again, the special purpose funds, basically when we sell we sold the old library. Since the old library was purchased with the old bond funds, there is no funding. Those funding sources are closed, so they are placed in special purpose fund. And we come to you as well, so it's for information that bond funds are used also for bond purposes. So it is being used for the library system as well. And again, this total of $110,000 is for design, administration, and construction, and any contingency that the project would bear.
So for us, we're just really voting on the 58
That's right.
where that
Motion to approve. I said motion to approve.
Okay. Any questions or comments? May we have a vote? Those approving? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, item 3D, that's also another HVAC repair improvements for Ronald J. Norick Downtown Library. And in here we are asking to make this a new unlisted project, an allocation of $181,500 in the 2000 GO bond library interest funds. The project was originally constructed in 2004 as part of the MAPS project, and the aging existing HVAC system needs to be repaired and basically adjusted. So that will be used for, again, the A&E, administration, contingency, and construction of repair and improvements to the HVAC system.
I hear a request a motion to approve this. Accept and approve.
again, I think it's the same issues we had on the other one, just need us to understand.
Yeah, and then we'll have discussion.
We keep going back and forth doing that.
Gary,
Have a conversation.
yeah.
It's just the same issue. You
Yes.
have to have a little more detail about what we're doing. I would vote to or make a motion that we approve that, but it would be.
Okay. You are making that motion. Second?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this?
Didn't we just do some window repairs this year?
There was some water intrusion issue that we came to you a few months ago. Let me ask if is that project getting underway? Yes, it's underway. I just wanted to mention that usually, based on the historic data of projects, we have percentages that we estimate when a project is come to you, and usually 10%, if we hire an outside engineer, 10% of the amount is for engineers. It could be more, could be less. Also, we set aside 10% for contingencies, either for change orders or amendments or field changes that come about. So usually, those are the percentage. And, we have also minimal percentage that we use for administration and management of the project. it could be anywhere from 3 to 7%. So that's how, the construction is basically a percentage of the total. But I may be glad to bring you the breakdown of the cost for future projects.
Any other questions or comments? Let's see. Those approving? Vote. Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, item 3E, this is recommending a new unlisted project for Ralph Ellison Library. And the parking lot of this library is needing to be repaired and resurfaced and striped. So we are requesting $55,000 in 2000 GO bond library interest fund in order to design and construct and basically spruce up the parking lot at this location. The original project was done with the 2000 bond library proposition, and project was finally accepted in October 2011.
Mayor. Okay. Second.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I go by this library all the time, and it is very heavily used, like 7 days a week. How will they, I was kind of wondering how they're going to have to close the parking lot to do this, or because there's nowhere else around there to park.
Let me consult Mr. Ringer on this.
So like with a lot of the road construction in Oklahoma City, we're going to have to coordinate the access with the library. There's going to be opportunities to just close portions of the parking. It's going to have to be limited, obviously, where they work in those certain areas. We also may be able to visit with the library staff and learn which hours are less used than others. And so one of the goals that we would have, target a less used time than a more heavily time. I know that they probably do a lot of in-house possibly training or book reading events and things like that, and we'll avoid those heavy events, but it would be coordinated directly with the library, any of the work. There is some companion work that you're going to see at Southern Oaks. Now that you mentioned Southern Oaks, there is a joint city-county project along with Oklahoma City Public Schools that you may have seen come up that's been proposed by Councilman Pete White. And so some similar things may occur in the future as that project proceeds. It's something that's a lot more extensive with some new road and access being provided back to the school, and it's going to either go just north or just south of the library. So we're going to be coordinating that work as well. So we're going to get very familiar with the library and the library staff.
We saw that last.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that was in that.
Can you not put in the bid proposal that the work will be done, find out what time the library closes, say 10 p.m. The work must be done between 10 p.m. and 6 p.m. In my experience on a much smaller scale, that's what we did. And the contractor knew that that's when they had to do it.
So we have experienced and have exercised some night work opportunities in Oklahoma City, but I think those that are familiar, you see how close the homes are to the library here. We do get a lot of complaints when we work at night near neighborhoods, and we really try to limit that to a lot of our arterial streets that are not right up against fences or front doors. We can look at that as an option, but just knowing the area pretty well, it might not be the best, at least just for Southern Oaks.
Well, people have to understand that the price of progress is inconvenience. And you're making it better for all them. So 1 or 2 nights of inconvenience, to me, would be well worth what you're doing at the project. Now, that's just me. That's just... We don't know. That you can bid it both ways. You can say, give us a bid if you do a night job. You can put options in there like that.
Let us look at that and visit the library. I think, too, this is not a new parking lot construction. It's a rehabilitation of the existing parking lot. So looking at the condition, I mean, we're talking about a few days of activity and not a few weeks.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a milling process that will mill that's quite noisy, and then there's the resurfacing and then the restriping. But it should go relatively quickly. It's not a huge parking lot, but one that just needs some attention. We'll absolutely coordinate that the best we can.
Those approving, aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, item 3F. This is also creating a new unlisted project for Southern Oaks Library. This was for the electrical system, and we are requesting $27,500 in the 2000 GEO bond library interest fund to take care of numerous electrical components that are not within the code and need to be brought up to date. Again, the original project was done with the 2000 GEO bond proposition, library proposition, and it was finally accepted in 2013.
Well, I can't recommend it and ask questions at the same time. That wouldn't make sense. Somebody else wants to.
Yeah.
You can make a motion to approve it or disapprove it, whichever one you want.
Yeah.
There'll be a second, and then it's open to discussion.
Well, but if I don't want to recommend until I ask questions, I shouldn't be the one to recommend. That's my point.
Well, just ask some questions.
Yeah, I don't understand I don't understand the.
Well,
Go ahead, ask some questions.
the,
Do you not understand, Linda?
yeah,
You need a motion and a second before you can have any discussion.
and
That's the rule.
So if everybody has a question, then no, it doesn't get
Well,
a
if-
motion to approve because no one's going to approve.
The final vote.
If they got questions.
Yeah, I agree with you. What's the question?
making,
I thought the 6900 South Walker was, had a very major renovation recently, was shut down for a long time. So why is there electrical work?
Sir Wenger?
yeah.
Eric, just.
Yeah. So I think coming back to, you're correct, there was a major renovation at Southern Oaks, but the renovation did not include every inch of the building. It was an expansion of the building and a reconfiguration. This work came to us from the library system after we were doing some additional electrical, and it was just identified that there were additional components in the building that were not meeting all the electrical code requirements. And so this project was brought to us. Some of these are labels that are put on some of the electrical circuits. They weren't labeled completely as a part of that existing renovation, and just some other identification items that just came up as other work was underway. So if this was a brand new building and it was built from ground up, I think we would have an opportunity to go back, say, against a contractor that built the entire building as new, but it simply was a renovation. So it's a mix of old work and new work, and there are a lot of things that just fall in between there, where it's a system that was added onto and not new, and in this case, some of it was old stuff and some of it was mixed with some of the new, just not done when it was renovated a few years ago.
Is the building department requiring that be brought up to code?
I think we had some additional electrical work that was out there that identified it, so now that it's been identified as non-compliant, we in our due diligence are bringing it up. Yeah.
Recommend to approve?
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Those approving, aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Okay. Last item is 3G. And again, we are requesting a new unlisted project for Ronald J. Norek Downtown Library. We are requesting $27,500 in the 2000 GEO bond library interest to be used for repairing a rotary fountain. It was basically donated by Rotary Club of Oklahoma City. I believe it's in need of repair. It has stopped operating. I believe there are parts that have to be special ordered for this to repair this and make it operational. So the money we are requesting will take care of the any design and construction of this project.
Okay, so we got that from the Rotary. It shoots water, and so now the liability is on us to repair it. Has any consideration been given us to dig it out and make it concrete?
So I think just in response, the city typically takes donations like these and they come under agreement with the city council. And so from the Rotary's agreement with the city, they donated with the understanding the city would then maintain. So it's a lot like our public art policies. I mean, once we put those systems into place, we are required to upkeep them. In this, it's an expensive item. We've actually had to go back to the original designer and installer of this fountain because it is so highly specialized. We did go through an exercise to try to determine if it would be easier just to replace it versus repair it, but in this case we found it was going to be cheaper just to repair the existing with new parts and use the original contractor to get it functioning again. But it is our responsibility through the agreement that was entered into with Rotary to maintain it until such time that agreement terms out, but I don't know that there was a term on that. I'd have to research that.
I'd vote to do it. I know that's expensive item.
You have a second? Okay. Any questions or comments? Any others? Okay. Those approving, aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, it's your ballgame now.
I'm just going to go over the bond executive summary for FY17 year-to-date as of August 12th. It looks like year-to-date we have $7.1 million in contract awarded, and expenditures are at $589,000 year-to-date. We're looking at $16.6 million in expected advertising in our outlook for the next 3 months through October, and just $5.4 million expected here within the next 2 months. In looking ahead at our requirement of spending 85% of the bond money, we're on target for the 2014 period sale year, and that's all looking like it should. Then we have the little quadrants 4 and 5 of the graphs, and it's just showing that it's going along as expected with the target contracts, and the actual contract awards are in line. And overall, to date, in our OCMF funding, which is our pre-engineering and different funds that go in there for pre-engineering and expenses on projects that are not all, presented yet, we have about $4 million available in there, and so we're sitting at a good number in our OCMFA funding. If there's any questions?
Thank you, Erica. Does anyone have any new business? Okay, items from committee members.
Can we talk just a
Go
little bit
ahead.
more about this questions and when that gets done? And I understand wanting to do this properly, and I'm used to being on nonprofit boards, and I can be a little bit more casual on a nonprofit board. I've been on several of those. But again, there's, 6 of us here today. So I understand that we do having a proposal, and say Gary and Greg is all for it and they recommend it, then we need to ask for questions. I mean, there certainly needs to be an opportunity to ask questions
Yes.
before we vote. That makes
That's right.
sense.
That's-
But say that
that's
there's
the-
all 6 of us have questions. At that time, how can you, and maybe that's never going to be the case, but you can't, how can you recommend to something, and then you ask a question? That's what I'm voting. You shouldn't recommend. I've been
Well,
on nonprofits.
no.
If nobody recommends it, there's no questions because we're not recommending.
Yes,
Well, here's the thing.
that's true.
You're under Robert's Rules of Order, and if council was here, I think council would say, you can't discuss it until you have a motion and a second. It doesn't make any difference whether the motion is for or against. All you have to do is put it out on the table, and if you're against it, you can make a motion to disapprove. And if no one seconds it, then the chairman's going to say it died for lack of a second, and then there's got to be a motion, another motion. But it's not that hard. If you make a motion to approve and someone seconds it and you're against it, then you vote against it when the vote's called. You can make a motion for it and you second it, and if you're against it, you can still vote against it.
But you won't know you're against it unless you ask some questions.
But you got to have a motion and a second to ask those questions.
Yeah, but see, Gary, you're asking people to make a motion to support or not support, in their ward. Well, you know what? I'm not
No.
going to say anything until I know, just some basic, that was.
That's fine.
Her question was very pertinent and informative to the process.
Yes.
We're not, okay, then she needs to say, well, someone else make the motion.
Well, but who else is going to make the motion?
I will. I'll make a motion every time,
Okay, well, then do that then.
and someone will second it.
Okay, 'cause
But I'm just saying,
Personally, I like to hear a little bit.
I'm not arguing that point. I'm saying that you're going to wind up in trouble.
We're just an advisory committee. We're just an advisory.
I understand. Oh,
They're not, the council's not bound by anything we do here.
I understand that.
But the motion is simply, we're bringing this up. If it doesn't, if we've read the notes and everybody else here is saying, no, we're going to deny this.
Well, but I read the notes and I
then we don't get a
I
second.
don't understand the issue, especially
And
in light
and we
of the idea that we don't
do no
have
discussion.
any estimates that detail what we're talking about.
Right.
So, I mean, there's clearly
Yeah,
a
but that-
gap.
I think what started it maybe today is, because we haven't really paid attention to what ward it is for who is recommending
No,
it
that's
first.
not a requirement.
That, we haven't been doing that. And
He's
it-
being nice about that to
so-
get everybody active.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what started it. Well, it happens to be in my ward, but I had a question. So versus if that hadn't started today, then Gary, you're already recommending it and Greg's approving it, and then I have a question. But
Yeah.
So I think that's what kind of part of this.
I mean, I'll make the motion every time, and somebody else can second it, and then you can ask whatever question you want to ask.
Okay.
Yep.
But what we do here means nothing anyway. And I hope all of you realize that. I do.
It means that somebody has looked at it and not found obvious problems that the council ought to be concerned about.
Well, but
And we've granted, the city does an outstanding job of giving us material that they've checked these things out pretty well. So there's seldom questions. This has generated more questions today than we've had in months, maybe a year.
Mr. Chairman, a lot of times the work's already been done.
Right, right.
And all we're doing is just, okaying it.
Getting the money in place to pay for it,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
And the council's going to do what they want to with it anyway.
Right. But we're minimizing the time they have to spend on this, which isn't,
I don't even know
Big
how
deal.
they vote on it. They may do it as a block.
yeah,
How do they vote on it?
okay.
These items usually go on the consent agenda for city council, and they are voted either.
They're on the consent agenda,
They
so
discuss,
it's
and
all-
then they voted on one block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're going to have to pull an item off the consent agenda if they want discussion on it.
Right.
Yes. and they could defer the item if
I understand.
they strongly want it.
Yeah. Anything else from the committee? Okay. Any citizens to be heard? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Those approving, aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you. This is more discussion than I